Hey everyone, welcome to the Orbital Media Podcast, where we learn about human perspective, global cultures, and story, one interview at a time. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so in order for us to continue making more content in the coming weeks and months. Now, in this episode today on regions of China, we're going to be talking about Heilongjiang province, and we are joined by Xuanyi Wang. Xuanyi, how close am I there with the pronunciation?
Good, Xuanyi Wang.
Okay. Now, you are from Heilongjiang province in China. How am I doing with the pronunciation on that?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to first of all tell everyone a little bit about yourself, who you are and kind of what you do?
So thank you for Chris having me here. And I was born and raised in China, Heilongjiang. And I used to live in Florida. I came to the LA like 2 years ago.
China obviously is a very, very big country, and I'm sure everyone who's watching, they've heard of China, they know a bit about it, but is there sort of a really quick intro that you'd want to do just if someone said, hey, where are you from? And you say, I'm from China, kind of what would you tell them?
China is a country of a great diversity, ethnic groups. We have 56 official ethnic groups with its own languages, customs, traditions.
When we think about China, right, we think about a very big country, but Heilongjiang province, where is that in China?
It's northeast of China, and it's on the border of Russia.
And first of all, what's the weather like there?
Oh my God, it's really cold. We have long, cold winters and cool, short summers.
Do you find sometimes when talking to Americans that they assume that China's like a hot country and that you have to tell them actually where I'm from, it's extremely cold?
Yeah. I mean, like the north of China, like my city, my hometown, it's pretty cold. It's kind of like Alaska.
What is your hometown specifically?
Yichun, like north than Harbin.
But how does the weather affect people up there? Is there sort of a...
I mean, in different ways. Mm-hmm. So like Heilongjiang locals love to drink liquor with high alcohol.
Okay. So we have a bottle of that over there.
I brought the baijiu here.
Right. Do you want to tell everyone what is baijiu?
Yeah, I mean baijiu is it's like a type of Chinese liquor, and it's between 35 to 65 alcohol in it.
Yeah.
But this one's I think it's with 56.
That's really high.
Right. So people drink it because we love spicy and heavily flavored dishes. Mm-hmm. So baijiu is a good choice for it. My dad loves it so much. It smells really bad.
Yeah.
Do you wanna?
Shall I take a sniff?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Let's do it. I've never had baijiu. It smells like just really strong, but like rice flavored.
Yeah.
Liquor. Yeah, it's sort of almost if you took sake or something and you just up the alcohol content as much as you possibly could. It's got kind of that sweet, or almost like a, I don't want to say like a cooking wine, but that same sort of sweet flavor, sometimes in like something like a sherry, where it's the strong alcohol vapors mixed with a sweetness, mm-hmm. and a little bit of a rice essence is kind of what I'm getting from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't drink that, so I use it for cooking.
Okay, that would explain why. Right. Is that though? Could we drink that normally, or is that really for cooking?
You can drink it normally, right?
Okay.
But Dad just drink it. Okay. With foods.
So it's a cold weather environment. It's very close to Russia, and what I'm curious to kind of talk about is how, when we think of default China, like a typical person in China, how might people and the culture of Heilongjiang be different, right?
Well, I would say Heilongjiang's locals described as warm and hospitable. Because like in my family, my parents always welcome guests. Like we do a lot of dishes, just kind of like a welcome, mm-hmm. and also comfortable for them. Yeah,
if I were to ask you kind of what does it mean to you when you think about Heilongjiang? You think about that province particularly. Like for me, I if you ask me about like New York compared to another American state, I'd say, people are very focused, they're very hardworking, they're very driven, they can seem sometimes a little cold, but it's also a place of like industry and a lot of fast-paced life, you know, and that's different from maybe other American areas. You know, how do you think of Heilongjiang, you know, as home, but like unique within China?
When I think about Heilongjiang, I'll say, like, rather than personality of the local, but also they always hardworking as well. So we have a lot of industry and heavy industry as well, and people are just hardworking on that. And nowadays, young people just move out. Right now, it's only like old people in Heilongjiang. And kind of sad, but that's true.
I'll go through a couple of things that I know about, maybe not Heilongjiang specifically, but northeastern China. There's a lot of steel and coal there, and that was a whole area of China that was occupied by the Japanese for a good period of time. I mean, like a good 15 years almost. They did a lot of development there, but my understanding is that a bunch of the steel and coal that China used comes from that part of China. And there was a lot of, like, as you said, heavy industry.
That's right.
Compared to maybe other parts. But then you said a lot of the young people are leaving there.
Right.
Is that because they want to move to big cities like Beijing and Shanghai and, you know, Shenzhen and work in like tech and entertainment and, you know, those sorts of things?
Yes, because Heilongjiang's education compared to Shandong or other province is kind of less educational, like,
okay.
Right? But young people is trying to pursuing higher educations that's why they move to the bigger cities.
So the education's a little bit, there was one person I was talking to on the show about educational differences in China, and that Shandong is generally seen as a leader for education. Yes. It's like, that's where the really intense schools are. Heilongjiang traditionally, you'd say, is a little bit behind.
Yes.
It's like below average in terms of the education system, yeah. What was your experience like with that? I mean, I suppose, how old were you when you left, first of all?
When I was 18.
When you were 18, okay.
I moved to the States.
And what was your sense of your education growing up there compared to your sense of other Chinese kids in other provinces?
Let's say when we have Gaokao, which is if you're trying to get into the college, you have to take a test, right?
The exam, yeah.
Right. So I think my average is about like 300 something. It's very, very low. You can't get into a college. But for other province, maybe in Shandong, they average about 500.
So it sounds similar sort of to some U.S. states where there are certain American states where test scores are on average very high, and other states that are maybe not so high. Yes. In the middle. And you'll see people from certain regions of the country very overrepresented in some colleges, for example, universities. But other people are other groups are very underrepresented. And that's not just by sort of like, what is your racial or ethnic ancestry, but like certain regions of the country too. How do you feel about that? Like, was it something that...
It's sad, but I don't know, because when I was little, I don't like studying.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So we always have a lot of outdoor activities because of, geography and also the weather.
The weather, you said it's very cold, short summers. What's the actual geography like? It's a very, just from pictures, I would guess it's kind of flat with some rolling hills?
Yes, we have a lot of national parks, a lot of mountains, rivers, and people enjoy skiing or ice fishing. I would say it's kind of like Alaska. Yeah,
Alaska or even like Minnesota would be another American state. Alaska, I don't know. Alaska is almost viewed as like just like the wild. You've got like it's like people live there, but it's seriously nature. Yeah. What else would you do for fun? Let's say.
Well, the Heilongjiang's capital is Harbin. The Harbin is famous for its snow sculpture.
Oh, okay.
Festival. right? So we just go to the Snow and Ice Sculpture Festival every year. So it's really a big festival in China.
Did you find, maybe because of the schooling being not as crazy as with Shandong, did you have more time in your day as a kid growing up where you weren't just always studying?
I think so.
Okay.
Because I don't study.
All right, because some kids I talk to, or some people now, young adults I talk to, they describe their lives as just all they did was study. That was like their whole existence.
Right.
But you actually had time to do other things in your life.
Oh, because for Chinese kids, it's really sad they always have, studying from maybe like 6:30 morning to the 9:30. But my parents they're pretty chill.
Do you want to talk about regional food up in northeastern China? Because a lot of different kinds of food in China, right? When you think stereotypically, even aside from like American Chinese food, you're thinking noodles, dumplings, probably like little pieces of meat that are coated in like, some sort of a sauce or a flavor on top of rice. What would the food be like around Harbin or around Heilongjiang?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to describe because like when American ask you, like, can you recommend some authentic Chinese food? I'll say they are, because we have 56 official like regions, ethnic groups. Each of them have different foods. Heilongjiang is more like we have a lot of pork, and we cook very heavily way. Like we stew it a lot and put a lot of flavor in it.
Is that more of you'd say like a spicy or more of like a thick sort of savory?
Right. It's a little bit spicy, but also flavor a lot. When you go to an authentic Chinese restaurant in the U.S., there's no Heilongjiang's particular food. You can see a lot of spicy, like Sichuan foods or Hunan,
sure,
but not Heilongjiang's.
What would some, I don't know, like a certain dish be that you quite enjoy from that part of China?
It's kind of like orange chicken, but it's not orange chicken.
Okay.
It's crispy. It's very crispy outside, but it's very tender inside. And the flavor like very sweet and sour, but very thin.
The availability of food, I'm curious about this. Like China, I understand a couple generations ago, people didn't have access to meat the same way that they do maybe more and more now. Did you notice growing up that your diet changed, like it got better as you got older?
I don't eat meat too much, but my dad love pork or chicken or meat.
But when they were younger, they would not have had access to meat as much.
Right.
And as they got older, right, and the country developed more, they could eat more dishes that had meat in it.
Right. I heard of that. Like the Chinese festival, they only have an egg. Mm-hmm. That's the most expensive things for their foods.
Yeah, but you were growing up a little bit after that.
Right.
When you were growing up, you didn't have to just eat one egg, and that was a special event. Like you could eat eggs if you wanted to, right. And they were available.
I think my age is getting better.
Yeah. And I'm curious in terms of the relationships between different Chinese provinces.
I mean, Heilongjiang's people when they say something, it's much straightforward. They don't think about too much. They just say whatever they want to say. That's one of most notable things.
Yeah.
If you ever know Shanghai's people.
I know several people from Shanghai. Right. Yeah.
They like when you talk to the Shanghai person or to a Heilongjiang person, it's totally different.
A Shanghai person, would they be very? I don't want to say more polite, but they're not going to say exactly what they mean.
Yes.
They're going to sort of dance around the topic a little bit to maybe seem a little more nice.
Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing or a good thing.
Right,
it's just like the way they think.
Okay, yeah. If you were thinking about like a stereotype that other Chinese people would have about someone from Heilongjiang, would there be anything else other than just like they're very straightforward?
Also, like what I mentioned before, is they are very warm. they like hosting guests. Right, that's the most thing.
And in your view, that's a little bit different from maybe other parts of China where people don't do that as much.
From my perspective, yes.
Okay.
They're kind of different because Heilongjiang's people is more, I would say, Dongbei, like northeast China.
Mm-hmm.
They always like hang out with friends or hang out with family, but they're all like, if I come to your house today, I'll come to, like, we can come to others people's house tomorrow.
In terms of the family structure, in a lot of parts of China, right, my understanding is you had larger families. These have been getting smaller over the decades, and now you have fewer kids and larger populations of old people. Is that also, that's very much still the case in Heilongjiang?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, like we have a very high value families, and like we all respect for elders. And elders always the people who are making decisions.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's okay. I mean, if it's not my thing, it's okay.
Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, interesting. In terms of this, this is actually, I want to back up for a second. You mentioned like the different ethnic groups. Now, I understand that around Harbin and Heilongjiang, you also have Manchu people or Manchu people.
Manchu.
What are they like, or how do they? Is there any kind of major difference between them and the Han?
I've never seen a Manchu people in my city, but I know like they were ruling class, like during the Qing. That is
Yeah.
But I think they look like just normal people.
Sure. Yeah.
Behave like normal people, because there are a lot of like celebrity in China. They are Manchu peoples.
Okay. Interesting.
Right, but their behaviors is kind of like Heilongjiang's local. Saying things loud, straightforward, and warm, friendly.
Yeah, I was going to back up and say the other thing I know about that part of China, Heilongjiang, is not even that long ago, but even like 400 years ago, 500 years ago, it wasn't ever traditionally part of core Han China. It was always, it was north of the Great Wall. It was outside of that core zone, and you had the Manchu people living there. They invaded and ended up ruling China, starting the Qing dynasty. You had a large number of Han people basically migrate or immigrate north to sort of settle that region. Like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, there was like a huge movement of people north up to northeastern China, is what I think I read somewhere.
Yes, like Han people is most majorities people in northeast China. There's still many. Like there's other ethnic groups in China, like Mongolian.
Yeah, okay.
Korean.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you do have Korean people there and Mongolians. Yeah. So what's, I'm curious about that. What sort of, like the dynamic between those different groups? Is there, like, I don't know, a general sense of like certain groups that don't get along, or like everyone kind of gets along, or?
The funny thing, they speak really well in Chinese, like the Korean, Mongolia. And we have, like Heilongjiang's local, we have a typical accent, Mandarin. When they say that, we know, oh, this guy's from Heilongjiang.
I know, I know about Mandarin language, and for 12 seconds I tried practicing it a little bit, but I don't know much about like accent differences between the different regions. Is there any way you could either like do an example of like what would someone from Heilongjiang sound like if they were saying, hello, my name is?
Yeah, sure. So Heilongjiang's people always say something like, 干哈呀? That means what?
Okay.
What? But in like standard Mandarin Chinese, they always say 干什么?
And what does that mean?
What?
Okay.
What?
Okay. Oh yeah, the shema, which is like a thing at the end, I remember sometimes.
Right.
What does that mean again? Shema?
Shema.
Yeah.
Just what is it?
Okay. Got it. Okay.
There are a lot of slang in Heilongjiang.
Yeah, sure.
Right, but because my generation would speak like a lot of standard Mandarin Chinese. We don't speak that slang anymore. So, but my grandmother's generation, they speak a lot.
If there was a regional, like an accent and a dialect, that's starting to die off a little bit, and it's being replaced by standard Mandarin.
Yes.
In terms of how people say, and even with the accent as well.
Right.
Too.
The funny thing is, if I go to south of China, I don't understand what others saying, but they can understand me because I only speak Mandarin, and they can speak more than one language.
Are a lot of people in the Northeast, they kind of just speak Mandarin, pretty much.
Right.
Whereas, people in the South, you've got like Wu, you've got Cantonese, you've got Hakka, a couple other ones. I mean, those are some of the, but, and people will generally be bilingual.
Right.
Right, with the two. Okay. So did you ever, I don't know, think to, like, did you ever have interest in learning one of the other Southern dialects or languages?
I tried to learn Cantonese. I feel like it's more harder to learn Cantonese than English.
Yeah.
I feel like English is much easier.
Well, Cantonese has 8 tones to it.
Right.
Mandarin's got 4. Yeah. Cantonese, I think I would really struggle with that one. I'm just curious to hear more about kind of like your life there when you were growing up and kind of what it was like.
Well, because I haven't back to China since I came here about 11 years, but my parents go back every year before the pandemic. But they always told me like how fast China is developing right now. Because there's a flea market, people just buy something, paying back cash, like maybe 8 years ago. And right now, they just simply use mobile apps for payment. And also like delivery system. If you want to buy something this morning and someone just pick it up right now and they're going to deliver it by this afternoon.
I'm curious also about the fact that you're so close to Russia. When you were in Harbin or outside of Harbin in Heilongjiang, what were the buildings like? Were they more traditionally kind of Chinese, or was there like a Russian influence in just like your environment?
There are a few streets, kind of like Russian style building, but the others normally is like traditional Chinese style.
Traditional Chinese style, okay. Is there a sense at all of whether it's like, I'm not sure it would be Russian people walking around, but a feeling of we're closer to Russia, so there's some Russian culture and Russian influence?
Yes, especially in Harbin.
Okay.
There's a typical ice cream from Russia, and then sell really well in Harbin. And there are a lot of Russian people that speak fluent in Mandarin.
Interesting. Okay.
But especially in Heilongjiang's accent.
And are those Russian people that, like, they are Chinese in the sense that they have a Chinese passport and they live in China? Or is it Russian people who come over the border and they're sort of visiting or they're working there, but they're Russian people? And then, Yeah,
I met a guy, he's kind of like living on the border of Russia and China. He just working back and forth. I don't know what passport he has, but he speaks really well Chinese.
I'm curious about that because I have heard that there are very small numbers of Russian people, but I'm never quite sure if it's people who just work in either country or if it's like those people are technically Chinese citizens, but they're ethnic Russian people, right?
I think so.
Okay,
right.
Interesting. Yeah. And also, I guess I always forget too, there's always the idea in Russia of a lot of people who are physically, they're East Asian, but they're Russian citizens versus like European looking Russian people.
Right. Because when I was little, I never saw any like European faces in Heilongjiang. But when I was growing up, when I go to Harbin, there are a lot of Russian people over there.
Because I know that, the relationship between the countries Russia and China it's had its ups and downs over time, periods where they're close, then they didn't like each other, then they're kind of close again, and, all of that kind of stuff.
Yes, because they're, affect most in music.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Some of those people, like the older people, they love to listen Russian music. And there are a lot of Russian music schools in Heilongjiang, but taught by Chinese people.
That's actually a question, yeah. Arts and culture and music and all of that kind of stuff. What is that? I mean, you kind of answered the question a little bit, but like, what does that look like in Heilongjiang compared to other parts of China?
I think compared to south of China, the north of China, they love to listen Russian music.
I mean, it could be a range, but is that anywhere from like traditional Russian music, but also like Russian pop music? Or is it?
I would say traditional one.
Traditional Russian music, okay. With like the, I'm trying to remember the instruments here, but like the balalaika, I think it's called, which is like the really big, like stringed kind of guitar type.
I think so, because even today, my neighbor, I live in Arcadia.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
My neighbor, he's a Chinese, and he was in the car listening Russian traditional music.
Interesting,
yeah.
yeah.
Saying that.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and I've said it before, I've in the last few years really started to listen to a lot of traditional music from different parts of the world, and I really love it actually. And there's a lot of great music from China and a lot of great music from Russia that I've been listening to. Also, music from parts of Africa and different parts of Europe and South Asia. So I'm always a big fan if people are listening to, I don't know, just traditional music from different parts of the world and different cultures. And in a couple examples, I'm thinking of northern China, Mongolia. There are a couple groups that are doing kind of the same thing. They're doing like Mongolian heavy metal folk crossover music.
Right.
Is there any of that in Heilongjiang that you're aware of, or not so much?
Not so much, but I know there are a lot of Mongolia bands.
Yeah, okay.
They are very popular in Europe.
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm. They are. They're getting. The Who is one band in particular. Yeah, I do know the Who. There was a smaller group called Tanger Cavalry that my friend introduced me to a few years ago. I think they're more niche, and I think there's some Russian guys and a couple. I think either Mongolian or Northern Chinese. But yeah, the Who is getting some serious traction. I think in even in the States too. Right. Like some of their music videos are really blowing up on YouTube. But again, I don't know if it's like a cold weather climate or something, but at least that I would say it seems to be a stereotype of like people who live in these colder places, both in East Asia, but also in Europe and the US, they tend to be more into like this type of heavy metal.
Right.
Mixed with often like traditional folk elements.
I think one of the reasons because of geography and also the climate. Because the funny thing is I went to a concert a few days ago and I was filming a rock band. There's a guy asking me, "Oh, you're from China? Like, is there really a punk or rock band in China?" You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I was like, yes, there are some great artists, but they can't do like very well great music under that environmental conditions.
You mentioned Russian folk music. We talked about heavy metal. Is there sort of a rock or like punk rock scene at all up in, if it's not Heilongjiang, but like around the northern areas of China at all, or not so much?
Or back in the 90s, there are some great band.
Okay.
Nowadays, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. Are most people, is it just like mainstream pop music?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, none that there's nothing wrong with a certain amount of mainstream pop music, but when it's the only thing going, that's where I get kind of a little sad.
It's sad.
Yes. And I don't know, I will say one thing I do like about the internet and Spotify and YouTube and things is that you can discover all kinds of types of music. You don't just have to listen to whatever is, playing on the radio.
And also for film as well. There's only like a few type of genre films popular in China because of censorship.
Is there like a main city in China for film and music and entertainment?
Oh yeah.
What is it?
I think it's in Hangzhou.
Okay. Oh, I think I had heard that. Yeah, that's Hangzhou. If I remember, is like kind of outside of Shanghai. It's like kind of down the river. To go back to sort of the north, like talk a bit more about Heilongjiang. a lot of the jobs that people had, like, or when people were growing up and there was a sense of like what you're probably going to do with your life, what people in your community are doing, is it a lot of men work in steel factories and in coal plants kind of thing?
They used to work in factory, like maybe back to my dad's generation.
Okay.
Because the economy is going slow.
Yeah.
Most young people are moving out of the city. So nowadays, like a lot of people is working for like company occupied by government.
So there's a lot of government bureaucracy and government offices. And so if you wanted a better, like a middle level job, you'd work for the government basically.
Right.
Okay.
Steady job, steady salary. That's what they're looking for.
That's ideal. What people in school they're told, go work for the government. That's a good job. Okay. It's so funny you're describing some of this. It sounds in some ways like I'm thinking about certain American states or regions of the U.S. like what's called the Rust Belt in the U.S., which are parts of like Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, Michigan, parts of upstate New York, actually. I could even say West Virginia, which were very driven by like steel and coal and heavy industries. But those industries kind of collapsed over the late 20th century. And there have been a lot of the same problems of young people don't want to live there. I'm generalizing here a lot. There are certain areas where that's not so true, but large swaths of the American Rust Belt it's defined by you have these older populations, youth groups are smaller, young people move to bigger cities, or they move to certain states generally that are warmer, right? The climate in the Rust Belt, very cold, very snowy, a similar sort of environment. People like to drink a lot, that sort of an idea. I certainly do too, so no, nothing against that. But it sounds like similar elements are at play here. That northeastern China, in ways, sounds kind of almost similar to like, I'm thinking like Michigan or like parts of Pennsylvania in the U.S. Yeah, okay. And is that the case with I'm curious, I don't know why I just keep going back to this heavy industry, but was there more of it and then it kind of like, there was a sense that it, I don't know, collapsed, but like people used to be working at these big factories and now they're not the way they used to be?
Well, it depends on what kind of factory. Like in the city of Daqing, like it's part of Heilongjiang, like I would say 90% people from Daqing, they work for the factory, which is by government, but all the family members work for that factory.
But that would still be running, like those people are still doing that today.
Right.
With so many factories, are there issues with air pollution being worse maybe in that part of China versus some other areas?
Yes, I mean, like the people didn't leave the Heilongjiang, they're still working for factories because they're afraid to go out to see the world. But people go out to see the world, they want to earn more money.
You mentioned your parents. Do your parents not live in China anymore?
Yeah, they're in Florida right now.
Oh, they live in Florida. Okay. Like a lot of this seems to be the go-to spot for, well, a lot of people actually. Yeah, Florida is a very interesting state. I had a friend of mine on from Florida, and we were chatting about that. I don't know do you have any thoughts about your time in Florida?
I don't know. Like when I have chat with LA people, they ask me where I used to live, and I was like, Florida. Like, oh, Florida. I don't know why, but this may be a different topic.
It's a different Florida. It depends on who you ask, but it's a very and I'm curious to when we get the episode up with my friend Jesse. Florida's this really, I don't want to say weird state, but it's a place where you just have a lot of different stuff all like kind of coming together, but very recently coming together. So as he described it, it's a state with, and again, I don't want to like put words in his mouth, so apologies, Jesse, but a sense of it still doesn't have a great sense of like history or what it is yet. So versus on certain other states, where there's a much stronger sense of the culture of this part of the US. Florida is like kind of a free-for-all. And you have a lot of different like political backgrounds of people. You've got a lot of blue Democrat, a lot of red Republican. You've got a bunch of different ethnic and racial groups. You've got old people. You've got young people. And you've got all the alligators and the swamps, and so it's just like a crazy place. Is the popular stereotype of Florida? So. Yeah, when you mentioned Florida, like, oh, I'm from there, it's becoming almost, do you know what, like, and this is a hard term to describe, what a meme is in English? M-E-M-E, a meme?
Yeah.
Right, a meme, yeah. So, like, Florida's almost like a meme, where it's just like, it's almost just like, Florida, what a crazy place, is sort of the sense of it. Again, I don't think there's not really a great comparison to China. I don't think so.
Place.
Or is there a place that you'd say sounds similar?
I would say now, like the weather is like Sanya, south of China, Sanya. There is Sanya. There's a lot of Heilongjiang people.
Okay.
Because of weather.
Okay, that's on Hainan, right?
Right, Hainan.
Hainan Island, yeah. Now, I am curious to do a shot of Baijiu.
Why not?
All right, you're driving, so you won't, but not too much, please. Just a little sip. I mean, not like 3. Okay, that's probably a little bit more. All right, thank you. That's perfect. All right, now I do remember I had learned cheers in Mandarin, but if you remind me again, what is it?
Ganbei.
Ganbei.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Like
All right, ganbei. Cheers. You know, I will say actually, now, I mean, my mouth feels like just, I can feel the fumes just coming out of my mouth, the alcohol fumes, but I will say actually, for 56% alcohol, that went down smoother than I thought. That is strong stuff, but man, I mean, I can still feel it, I can still feel it in the back of my throat. I have not had a chaser, by the way, if you've noticed, no chasers at all. I mean, I would need to sit on that for a while.
I can smell like very strong sense to rice.
But I think that's what it is. There's something about the flavor of it. I can taste a little bit of the rice, a little bit of, like a sweet alcohol flavor. Yeah. And I think the difference is, and this is maybe what I like about it, is there's something with vodka where it feels very like thick and heavy somehow. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you've ever had like a shot of vodka, there's like a heavy, thick weight to the drink itself, to the actual liquid. Whereas this feels much thinner. It feels, or I want to say thinner because it's really strong, but it feels much lighter.
What do you think the best food to,
What I would pair that with? Nothing that is soft and subtle. Like I would not drink that with dim sum or something that's like nothing that's like shrimp or fish or like soft things. I would want to pair that with just heavy, strong meat stew and like rice and like heavy, thick, buckwheat noodles and something that's hot.
That's definitely Heilongjiang people.
Yeah.
Drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Much less burn than I was expecting. It was more just it was almost like when I drank it, I could feel the fumes of alcohol in my mouth, but they weren't burning. It was just so like, it was like, I don't know. You're just like, you could just feel the fumes like in your mouth.
Maybe this type of baijiu is okay.
That worked. I mean, again, I gotta say, like that overall worked for me.
Right. When I was little, my dad, because my dad liked baijiu, right? He always let me try some different type of baijiu.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are burning my mouth.
Well, how young were you? I mean, yeah. Okay. I don't know. I gotta say, for the first time ever trying baijiu, I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. So, yeah. Though I'm curious if I did a baijiu taste test. I'd have to do really small amounts. I'm sure there are other versions that would probably, they would burn and I would, no.
I'll let you know which one is good for you.
Yeah, let me know. But so far this one, and what's this one called? I'm just curious.
Let me see. 二锅头.
Oh, we can, show it to the.
So it's 二锅头白酒. 二锅头 is which is very popular in Beijing.
And that would be one, right? 二 is one.
Two.
Oh, two, sorry. Yeah, 一二三, right? So, yeah, two. 二, two. Oh, and Shan, that's mountain. I do know that, right? So
Yeah, Shan.
Shan, okay.
牛栏山二锅头白酒. Okay, but this one I think is around like 12 or 13 bucks. So it's not bad.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'd be interested to try that because, it's never really, I think partly, I don't know if this has been your experience, I don't tend to see it on menus very much, baijiu. I don't tend to see that on menus and not even like American Chinese restaurants, but even like reasonably authentic Chinese restaurants. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right place, but I don't feel like they're around as much.
They don't have it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
My dad always like put some baijiu in the bottle of water and trying to get it like water get in to try to drink them.
Yeah. That's a classic one. Americans, they'll do that with vodka. You put vodka in the water bottle and then you sneak into some place. You're like, it's just water. Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking in comparison to something like, and I get, we live in Los Angeles, but compared to something like Soju, where in LA, you can find Soju without too much trouble. It's pretty available. I mean, I was in a grocery store the other day, and it wasn't even a Korean grocery, and they just had bottles of Soju there. It's becoming pretty popular, but yeah, baijiu I almost never see it.
I think soju is more light.
Yes, it is. Oh, and Soju is much lower in alcohol strength.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. At least from trying it once, that works for me.
Yeah, because south of China people, they don't drink baijiu.
Okay, so that would be, and I know you kind of said this, but it would be fair to say that's another cultural element of Heilongjiang or northern China in general, is defined as like people will drink baijiu, but people in the south don't so much.
Right, but people drink baijiu like for normal dinner, right?
Got it. Okay.
But like all the general people in China, they drink baijiu when they have a business.
Would you say, and there's sort of not U.S. not so much, but for Europe, there are some very interesting maps where people draw lines, and they talk about like areas of Europe that are defined by vodka or spirits, wine, and beer. And there's almost it's like a 3-part area, like parts of Europe where the main drink is beer, other areas where it's wine, other areas where it's vodka or spirits. In China, it's the same thing, like
similar.
Yeah, where like what would be I don't want to say it's a dividing line, obviously. I'm sure, people are going to do things, but like if you had to generalize, where are the parts of China where people are going to drink baijiu and it's just like a normal beverage?
I would say Shandong province also drink baijiu, or some village from like Sichuan or the village in Guangzhou, they drink baijiu. And most of city, they love beers because of hot weather.
Right. That's popular, I think, over China, but beer, it's more popular relatively, let's say, in the south, would you say?
Yes.
Okay. So they're much more likely to drink in like Guangdong or Fujian or Hunan, those sorts of places. Beer is much more popular.
Right. We can also divide it by like age.
Yeah, okay.
Young people like more like drink beers, but older people like baijiu. Yeah,
I did an episode on Chinese beers. I've still never had Snow, which I understand is very, very popular.
Oh, yeah, I think that's imported from Harbin.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. Snow. The only beers, at least when I was looking for them in China or from China that I could find in the U.S. is you've got Tsingtao, which is from Shandong province, right? You've got something called Lucky Buddha.
Oh, yeah.
Is that becoming very popular in China too?
Yes. I
Okay.
bought that, but I don't know where it comes from.
The bottles are, I love the bottles. The bottles are great. It's just like a little fat Buddha, and he's got a little gold ingot. And it is probably the most unique beer bottle I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Lucky Buddha.
I've never seen that anywhere.
We'll put an image down. And it's not bad too. I quite like it. It's similar to Tsingtao. It's a little bit, they're very similar. Tsingtao and Lucky Buddha are very similar in flavor. And then there was, that I had, Yanjing was another beer that was from Beijing, or I think maybe, somewhere around like Hebei province, something like that. Okay. But generationally, there's a big difference between baijiu and beer.
I will find a xuehua for you. Let me try.
I really appreciate you bringing that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for trying it.
Yeah, of course. What do people, in your general sense, people from Heilongjiang, what do they think about other Chinese people, like other regions of China? What are their stereotypes, of other Chinese people?
Well, I would say, I don't know about Heilongjiang's people, they don't like people from south of China. And maybe because the behavior is different.
How so?
Because Chinese, Heilongjiang's people, so friendly, talkative.
Right.
But south of China's people, they just so, focus on more on their own family, small family.
Got it, okay.
But Heilongjiang's people more focus on friends or big families or everyone else in the neighborhood as well.
The topic of family versus friends, is that something that you notice differs quite a bit?
I mean, it depends on the people.
Of course.
My family, we always spend Spring Festival with my parents' friend, and then family. But we always family is the first one. Absolutely right. But we always spend time with friends.
Yeah. Okay.
Even every night. It really depends on people.
Anything else that we sort of haven't talked about that you want to, mention about just your hometown and how you feel it's unique within China, I guess?
Yeah, there's another thing.
Okay.
I saw the news, the divorce rate in Heilongjiang ranks among the top 3 in province.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know why, but the women's empowerment is growing up in Heilongjiang.
Oh, then you know what? Yeah, why don't we talk about that actually? Which is, when you, just talking to other women from maybe different parts of China while you were in LA, maybe, or if you, I don't know how much you traveled around China, but did you have a sense of women from where I come from are a bit different than women from maybe other parts of China?
I can feel that, a bit of difference from other cities. Because my mom always told me, if someone bullies you, you should stand up for it.
Yeah.
And that's 90% women from Heilongjiang doing that. I think that's why the divorce rate is getting high.
But the sense was people from southern provinces, maybe there was less of that. And there was a bit more of a sense of, I don't know.
Well, then maybe think about their family.
Okay.
But the Heilongjiang's people more, self-conscious, more important.
This is so interesting. And I don't know if it has to do with the climate, but everything you're describing relates very similarly to both the US and Europe in terms of the northern cold weather cultures and the hotter southern cultures. Right. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's what is it about weather? And the same with going back to, heavy metal as well. Right. Heavy metal and hard rock music, I tend to think of as a cold weather thing.
Right.
Why is that? I don't know. Xuanyi, right? Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all of the watchers if you've made it this far. Appreciate you tuning in and checking out this episode on Heilongjiang. I've learned a lot about that particular part of China and how it compares to other parts of China, which was my goal going in, and also learned a little bit about beverage and food, which is always a nice plus. So once again, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And thank you all. If you haven't, again, subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Maybe just like the video or even leave a comment if you have opinions about what we've talked about. As always, just please keep it civil and respectful. And we'll see you next time.